What's up guys, you're watching Poots Garage. This week we need to go over everything that we damaged and destroyed last week doing the test and tune on this Chevy. So last week we did a really hard test and tune on this truck. We didn't do a whole lot, but the few things we did were pretty rough on it. And we made it back. Holy crap, that was a good test. So that was about the best way to do a little test and tune on this thing. So we need to go over everything that is possibly broken or damaged. So let's get to it. So for starters is the front drive shaft. That was obviously the one big fail we had. So I've always been skeptical about how much spline was showing when the truck was just sitting level, static, whatever you want to call it. And my suspicions were correct because it fell out. Basically the suspension drops and you lose all your splines and the drive shaft literally just pulls apart. And really the only fix for that is a longer drive shaft. So I'm gonna contact Tom Woods again and we'll get this figured out one way or the other. Now I was trying to put this thing back together out there, but these splines are just not going. I think they're just a little too chewed up on the end. Hopefully we didn't rip any splines out at the very end of the travel there, but it's very possible since we were under pretty good throttle when it popped. So I'm gonna pull it back apart here, clean things up, and really look at it and figure out what we want to do. Hey, this is a good time to take a break here, and let's get to the map. What we do is you comment where you're watching from, and I'll put a red pin on the map. Let's get to it. First up this week is Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Then Chesterfield, Virginia, Sailorsville, Kentucky, the whole country of Italy, Bakersfield, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, Spirit Lake, Idaho, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Pahrump, Nevada, Tucson, Arizona, Paris, France, Wickenburg, Arizona, Athabasca, Alberta, Canada, Cairo, Egypt, Kiowa, Oklahoma, El Paso, Texas. Y'all are testing me on this one. This one is Nehwa, Sweden, or as I would pronounce Nasjo, Sweden. Albuquerque, New Mexico, Pendleton, Oregon, and last this week is Rancho Cordova, California. So keep calling out them cities, them states, them countries, whatever you want to represent. Let's get back to the video. So other than that major fail, we got a bunch of small things to address. One is this fender. This fender is rubbing real hard still. None of the others seem to rub hard, but just this one for some reason. So you can see where we bit into the bottom there, which wasn't horrible. I don't think that messed with the tire too much. But the bad part, it took me a while to find, is actually up here, the inner fender where I had cut it off. I didn't think the tire would go all the way up in there, but it did, and it caught it hard. And it actually, I don't know if you can tell in the video, it actually rolled the metal over, and that was just a sharp, fresh cut edge. So yeah, that was kind of nasty. It did cut the tire a little bit, but it could have been worse. And this is it here. We got some shredding. It grabbed a few of the blocks here and kind of cut them up, but I think we're okay. So we definitely need to cut all that out more. I'm gonna have to cut back further on the fender itself, trim up that inner stuff, maybe try and roll the inner stuff so it doesn't have anything to actually catch. I think we're okay in the front of the fender. This passenger side on the rear also caught the rear a little bit, which actually surprised me because we were flexing this thing out pretty good, so I guess it's not that surprising. But we are rubbing along the front edge there, so we're gonna have to trim a little bit of that. That's not too big of a deal because it's not a sharp edge, at least not yet until I cut it. The rear of the fender, it just barely caught the bottom corner there and popped that out into a nice little sharp point. But I don't really see any marks on the tire itself where it did any damage or cut the tire or anything. The other surprise is we actually rubbed on the inside of the bed here, inside the wheel well, but it just barely kissed it, it looks like, so I'm really not worried about that at all. I guess one thing in the rear here is, for some reason, I keep setting the parking brake and not taking it back off when I drive. And so when I got back on the road and I was driving it and didn't realize the parking brake was still on, I smoked these rear brakes bad and I can still smell them. So yeah, we definitely cooked those. I probably should pull it apart and make sure the pads aren't completely cracked and crumbling apart or anything, but for now, I'm not that worried about it. The driver's side, I found absolutely no signs of contact on any of the trimming, but whatever we trim on the other side, we'll do on this side to match. We did contact a rock right on the bottom of the rocker panel, just barely kissed it. That was pretty extreme, that little spot, so that was kind of cool to get this thing up into a spot like that. We got our first rock rash. Look at that little guy. You just barely see it. We barely touched a rock on that wheel. That's the driver front. I've been under this front end for a while trying to look at anything possible that might be contacting or interfering, and I really don't see anything. Everything looks really good. The only spot that I see, it's gonna be hard to show on the camera probably, is on top of this drag link over here. Right along there somewhere on the back side of it, I think. When it comes up, it actually contacted the cross member up here on the engine, so there's some options to correct that, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. I was really happy about how the engine performed. I'm a little leery of this engine itself because it's so old and it's really worn out, and there might be some metal flake in the oil, but I'm not getting any loss of oil pressure. It's not knocking, it's not tapping, ticking, so it's doing pretty good. Looking on the bottom of the rear differential here, it's kind of hard to show because the light is so bright coming through the garage door, but we drug it over a big rock there, so just testing out the housing a little bit. And then one of the big major changes I still need to make, I knew I needed to make, which actually didn't really cause that much of an issue, but is I want to move these shocks up higher. I need to get them to be more equal with the axle tubes themselves. Just for one, to get them from hanging down so low, because that is what we hung up on at one point. But also that'll get my shock in its proper ride height. I'm also starting to really hate this exhaust. It's getting really obnoxious, and I've never liked it, to be honest. So hopefully that's a little motivation for me to get these mufflers changed out to something different. Got some Flowmasters on the bench there that I'll probably throw in there. And the last thing I didn't even notice till this morning when I popped the hood to look under here is my battery fell off. I kind of forgot that thing was held down by a old cracked rubber tie down. So yeah, we definitely need to come up with something better there. I did get kind of lucky because that positive terminal actually touched the radiator there and almost burned through. So yeah, we got lucky there. But when it fell, it ripped out all my wiring for my lights because it just kind of took it all with it. You can see my little fuse panel was hanging out down there, so I gotta pull that battery back out of there. This battery tray doesn't look so hot, so maybe we'll just get a new one of those also, but I definitely need to get a tie-down system of some sort in here. And on top of the truck itself, my equipment took a beating too. I kind of broke my tripod, so I can fix that real easy. This camera is got sand in it, I can hear it, and that's just not good. So all my equipment took a beating, so I definitely want to make some improvements to my stuff as well. So all in all, I'm super happy with the way this thing's turning out. It performed really good till the drive shaft fell off. But I'm super happy with everything. One thing I'm really relieved at is the gearing on this truck. It's got 456 gears in the axles, just kind of that factory military truck axle. But with a 40-inch tire, that's really not a whole lot of gearing for a 40-inch tire. But what saves this thing is having that granny gear in the transmission. That thing really gears it down, and it actually worked really good. I was super happy. This thing barely needed any throttle to climb up some of this tall stuff. It kind of just wanted to walk up it. I mean, it'll just idle up a lot of small stuff, so I'm happy. Plus having a big block, you got that real low end torque, so you don't have to have a whole lot of RPMs or nothing, so I'm happy. This thing, it drove really good. Super stoked about that. But other than that, I did notice like just my YouTube stuff, like I really got to upgrade my my video quality and different things like that. We're diving into a different type of filming now, going outdoors, doing like action shots and stuff like that, which I'm just not that used to. I'm so used to just doing these shot videos where the camera's sitting there and I just kind of move it here, there, whatever, and I do these talking, and the editing is different and whatnot. So I really got to figure out my editing style for the action videos. But also my equipment needs to be upgraded. This camera is starting to get kind of wore out, I think. It's kind of acting kind of weird. The lighting seems like it's getting really bad. It's having a hard time distinguishing the super brights from the dark shadows, and I don't know, something seems off. So I definitely want to upgrade the camera eventually. You know, my tripod's getting beat up. That thing has already been broken once before. Another thing is when I'm out there doing stuff, I'm trying to hold the camera steady, but you know, when you're trying to change positions or walk or whatever, like I'm tripping over rocks and plants and dirt. So I really want to upgrade to a gimbal, get a small gimbal. They got those little ones that are kind of just handheld units. So that would actually be super cool to get. So I might have to start researching that a little bit more too. And then that'll just make these shots like super steady no matter what you're doing. You can be walking around and they'll just be steady. I can do like nice smooth pans with them. So I think I want to upgrade into something like that too. But I had an awesome time out there. The group of guys I was with, I'm kind of new with them, so kind of some local guys that I've been hanging out with on occasion. They're a really good group of dudes. Some of them are like real knowledgeable on off-roading and building and stuff, which is perfect. And then you got some other guys that are like super new to this stuff, and it's just, it's real fun, you know, having them stock rigs and then having built rigs all mixed in together. It's actually pretty cool doing that stuff. I like it. So I'm sure we'll end up seeing a lot more of them in the videos coming up too. And that's about all we got for this video. Hang out next weekend as we're gonna start repairing all these little things. So talk to you later.